Okay, so we've seen how to add token verification to our get endpoint. So the next question is, how do we add that same level of verification to our other endpoints, such as the endpoint for creating users, for editing users, for deleting users, etc.? Well, I'm actually going to start off with updating users because the endpoint for creating users is going to be a little bit different than what we've seen. So let's change this put endpoint so that it actually verifies that the user that's trying to edit this information is the user who owns the information, essentially. So the first thing that we're going to need to do, remember that on the front end, we're already sending along the auth token appropriately, so we don't need to worry about that. But what we do need to do is get that auth token from the request headers. So we can just say const auth token equals request.headers. And then, just like we've done before, we need to actually verify that auth token. And to do that, we use the same Firebase admin function as before. And we're going to wrap this in a try catch block here too. We're going to say const auth user equals await admin.auth.verify ID token. And we're going to pass that auth token as an argument to this. And remember that that will return the user that that auth token belongs to. And just while I'm thinking about it, let's add async to this function here. Okay, so now that we have the auth user from the token, the next thing we're going to do is make sure that that auth user's ID matches the user ID that we're getting from the request parameters. So what that's going to look like, we're going to say if auth user.uid does not equal user ID. In that case, just like we saw before, we're going to say response.send status 403. And we'll want to actually return here to make sure that it doesn't continue executing. I think we did that above. Yes, return response.send status. And we're also going to catch an error that will happen if something goes wrong while verifying the ID token. So we're going to say catch e, and for this we'll say return response.send status 401. Otherwise, if neither of these response.sendStatus statements is executed, basically that means that the token is legit and it really is the user who's trying to edit their own information. So essentially, we just want to leave the rest of this information for now, and we should be good. So now that we've done the update endpoint, let's also do the delete endpoint while we're at it, I suppose. That's going to be exactly the same as what we've seen up here. So if you want, we can just copy and paste this try catch block into our endpoint here. And a little later on, I'll show you a better way to duplicate this logic without having to copy and paste. Okay, and we also just need to get the auth token from the headers. So const auth token equals request.headers. And everything else should be roughly the same here. It's all looking good. Okay, so let's test out both the put and delete endpoints with their new protective logic. First of all, let's make sure that everything... I forgot an async keyword again. Let's add that to delete. And this one has it right. Yep, it looks like we're all good there. So let's open this up again, make sure that we don't have any syntax errors. It looks like we're good. So what we're going to do is we're going to try both updating a user and deleting a user. Now, since I don't want to delete the user that I'm using for testing here, I'm actually going to log out and create a new user. And we haven't actually added protection to this route yet, so let's just behave ourselves. What we're going to do is say Sean, we'll do Sean9@gmail.com, enter a password, re-enter a password, enter my full name, and enter a bio. Hello, this is a test. That's fine. And let's click on Create Account now, and we should see something that looks like this. So the next thing we're going to do, let's try and edit this account by, just making a few changes. We'll say, hello, this is a test. We'll just say, hello, I'm the real user. Click on Save Changes, and we should see that that updates correctly. And in order to test out trying to edit an account as a different user, what we'll actually have to do is open up Postman. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over here. And what we're going to do is try sending a put request to that user's ID. Okay, so we're going to copy this, replace this ID here with that. And as the body, what we're going to do is add some updates. So we'll say updates. Those updates are going to be name. We'll say something like hacked. This isn't actually going to work, by the way. And we're going to specify a bio here that says you got hacked. Okay, so let's try sending this thing to this endpoint. If we click send, what we're going to see is this unauthorized message. Now, if you want to include that header, if you want to include a different auth token header, what you can do is say auth token, and for the value, right, you could try including the auth token of a different user if you want, right? All you need to do is log in as a different user and take a look at the requests that are being sent in the network tab and just copy and paste that here. But what you'll see is if we click on send here, well, actually we'll get 401 because this isn't a valid ID token. You know what? Let me just get the ID token of a different user here. What I'm going to do is click log out. We're going to log in as regular Sean@gmail.com. We're going to click log in. And let's try and get the auth token from our network tab here. So let's try and refresh this, I suppose. So we're looking for the request where we actually load the user's data, and we should be able to see the headers. If we look for auth token, we're going to want to copy and paste this giant auth token here. Will it let me do that? Yep, copy value. You might have to right click and do copy value because it has some weird highlighting preferences here. So what I'm going to do now is paste this into our value here and click send. And we'll see a different status code that we get back now, which is forbidden instead of the other status code. So in other words, this is a valid token that we're sending along here, but it doesn't belong to the user whose information we're trying to edit. Okay, and if you want to see what it looks like just sending along the correct auth token, what we're going to do is log out and log back in as Sean9@gmail.com, ABC123. Log in, and then if we open up the inspector window again and go to network and refresh the page, what we're going to be looking for is the auth token header in here again. So we'll find that here, we'll copy the value, and we're going to replace this value here with that. And I believe that should be it. Here, let me just make sure that I emptied that completely. We'll paste it again. And if we click send now, we'll see that everything worked, right? And hacked and you got hacked are now the name and bio. So in other words, right, the moral of this story is if someone gets a hold of a user's auth token, then that user is pretty much screwed because that person with their auth token can basically do whatever they want with their profile. So if we were to go back here and refresh it now, we'll see, this user has been hacked. So anyway, that's how we add protection to the delete and update endpoints. And actually, let's just test the delete endpoint here. We're going to click on delete my account. And sure enough, everything should be working for that. If we try and click send again, we'll see not found for that user's information. Okay, well, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.